How do we create safe spaces, programs, and communities that support LGBTQ plus youth while allowing them to experience life like any other young person without being defined by a single part of who they are? In this episode, we're joined by Brian Wenke, the executive director of It Gets Better, to explore how empathy, education, and storytelling can help amplify youth voices and create supportive communities for LGBTQ plus youth. While it's true this young community may face unique challenges, we talk about why we shouldn't view these experiences through a monolithic lens or define young people by a single aspect of their identity. We also discuss IME, their innovative for youth, by youth mental health platform designed as an upstream intervention that provides content and tools to help young people build self-awareness, resilience, and a greater sense of agency in their lives. By giving youth the power of choice, fostering community, and providing greater access to resources shaped by their input, IME helps them navigate the world around them before life challenges turn into crisis. This episode is a reminder that when we actively listen and lead with empathy, we can create space for young people to shape their own stories and ensure safe, long-term growth for our LGBTQ plus young people. Let's get into it. We're meeting with real leaders shaping a healthier future for our young people. We dig into what motivates them and how their work makes a difference. I'm CJ Sturmer, and this is the Champions for Youth podcast. Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
And happy Pride Month. I'm very excited to have you here during a very important month for our community. And today I'm excited to talk to you about It Gets Better. But before we dive into that, I'm very curious. You've been working in this field for quite some time. You and I both identify with the same community. What motivated you down this path of working with such an incredible organization?
Oh, you're jumping into the deep end.
I'm jumping right in.
Right out of the gate. Believe it or not, when I was younger, I wanted to be an entertainer. So that was my jam.
As many of us often do.
Right. I think it's really important. And I don't want to sidetrack the conversation, but if you ever want to get together and talk about the importance of theater and drama for queer kids, let's do it. It was salvation for me in many ways. Went to undergrad for it, dragged myself out to Los Angeles. I'm from Dublin, Ohio originally. Then I got a taste of what it means to be a working entertainer. And there were a lot of people who were just better than me and were more into it than I was. And I think I was more in love with the fantasy than the reality. And that was a really hard realization for me to make. But if I couldn't do that, I needed to do something that was meaningful. And nonprofit really gave me a sense of purpose because I got to connect with causes that had a very personal impact on my life. And I started at the LA Zoo. I moved up to the American Cancer Society. And when I landed at It Gets Better, I have to be honest, I was really nervous about it. And it's probably some of the most personal work that I've ever done because of my own experience in coming out and the kind of mental health issues that I experienced. And, I'm a survivor of a suicide attempt. And it wasn't something that I was necessarily prepared to jump in and work on, because doing this kind of work, you kind of have to reconcile things within yourself that connects you to the work. But I've been here since 2016. So I think I'm committed to it, and it's been an incredible experience. And if I can be a shining light in just one LGBTQ plus person's life at a time where they need support, the kind of support that I wish I had, then great, my job here is done. That's sort of a very quick, pathway to how I landed at It Gets Better. But it's so important to me. I am mildly obsessed with it because, when I see young people today and the kind of impact that they can have on the world and the role that I can play to amplify that impact, it's healing me in many ways.
Yeah.
And it's healing me in many ways that traditional therapy couldn't.
Thanks for being so vulnerable and sharing that personal story. And I can relate to sort of how you're feeling. I think for both of us who identify in the LGBTQ plus community, and also growing up in a rural place like North Carolina, I didn't know anyone from my community until, I don't know, I was 19, 20 years old. And so I think we share that sort of bond, and why I also do this kind of thing and work in youth advocacy and want to represent our community is very similar. We didn't have these things when we were growing up, right? And I often hear this. I love that passion comes from a place of, I wish I had this, or I know I need to do something more, or this drives me. And I think that really makes us all better at the work that we do. And we care from such a different, unique perspectives. So thank you for sharing that vulnerability and sharing that story. And I'm happy you're here, and I'm excited to hear about the It Gets Better organization and all the work that you all have done to really help progress those same emotions and feelings for our young people and to provide some of that representation. So you're the executive director of It Gets Better. Talk to me a little bit about It Gets Better. What exactly does the organization do?
It Gets Better is a nonprofit. Our mission is to uplift, empower, and connect LGBTQ plus youth around the globe. And we are primarily known for our storytelling work, which is how we were born, how we came into existence, back in 2010 on the heels of a suicide contagion that claimed the lives of folks like Seth Walsh and Billy Lucas. There's a
Right.
real need to get in front of this situation because we're in a crisis moment, and young queer people needed to understand that they weren't alone. We were born out of this user-generated content, this huge global campaign that was, I guess, similar to the Ice Bucket Challenge. It was like the Ice Bucket Challenge of its day, for the queer community. And, everyone started showing up, sharing their personal stories of resilience and triumph and how they navigated these very dark times that we all experience, but they are so acute when we are teens. It was just this global, coming together of our community in a way that hadn't been seen before.
It Gets Better has been around for quite some time. And
Mm-hmm.
I like that you're using storytelling as a way to connect our community together. What makes It Gets Better different than other LGBTQ youth organizations?
I love this question. This has been a topic of discussion for a while at It Gets Better. We are in the middle of a strategic planning process, and we have been really looking at every single thing that we do and how we talk about ourselves. And we've learned a lot over the years, due in large part to the fact that we integrate LGBTQ plus youth in every aspect of our work. Now, what makes us unique, I hesitate to use that language because there are many organizations that have a similar theory of change, and we subscribe to positive youth development as our primary theory of change. And that is all about focusing on the good and the strengths and amplifying the strengths of individuals. A lot of mentorship programs fall into that bucket. But when it comes to LGBTQ plus youth, I think one of the things that does separate us a little bit from our peers in the space is a lot of organizations out there are focused on creating an external environment that is more inclusive for LGBTQ plus youth. They're looking at policy change. They're looking at fighting for our rights in the court, right? That is their main focus. Whereas It Gets Better, we recognize that the world ebbs and flows, and it rarely rolls out the red carpet for anyone. And yes, it's important that we create an inclusive external environment for LGBTQ plus youth, but we also have a responsibility to show LGBTQ plus youth how to navigate this ever-changing environment that is sometimes inclusive, sometimes it's not.
Right.
And we need to teach them internally how to tap into their power. And so we really focus on the intrinsic motivation that drives us all, that supports our resiliency, recognizing that, yeah, the world might seem not so great at the moment or at any point, but it's always going to be like that. And we navigate one obstacle successfully, we'll navigate the next one even better. And so we really focus on strengthening confidence and building skills for LGBTQ plus youth to build the human from within, to ensure that they can navigate difficult times. And we will fall on difficult times again. It's just the nature of being different in a world that doesn't like different.
I love the term the human within. We talk a lot here about humans are not monolithic. There aren't these unique instances where, oh, this is special to this person, or if it's a health topic, oh, well, it's just substance use or it's just tobacco. That's not a thing, right? People have all these different lived experiences. And, you take being a young person where adolescence, there's hormones. They have, their own lived experiences. There's so much unfamiliarity about what's going on in the world and it's new. And, young people are impulsive, like they're young. And then we have this other layer of uncertainty of LGBTQ issues and identity and the coming out process, which if you know LGBTQ people, everyone has their own coming out story and it's very unique and different. So I like that you all are thinking about that human within and how we're supporting young people's development as a whole human being.
I think I don't, I mean, I have to claim some responsibility for it because I run a nonprofit in this space. And I do think a lot of the organizations that are providing services for LGBTQ plus youth in the spirit of helping the public understand the disparities that LGBTQ plus people face, they can contribute to a very monolithic understanding of the
Mm,
community. And
right.
and I think it's not intended, but it kind of others our community in some ways. And I am not defined by my disparities, that I have, that I experience. And there are many other identities that I have, right? And I think
Right.
when we talk about queer youth, we need to talk about it more holistically. We need to talk about just the human experience in an expansive
Right.
way. So people just don't look at the queer community and say, oh, they just want what they want. Or they just want, unrealistic, they have unrealistic expectations. They just want to,
Right.
they're obsessed with their pronouns. And we're so much more than that. And I think we owe it to young people to let them step forward and tell their own stories in a lot of ways so we can better understand that and not inadvertently paint them as some monolithic being that is being othered.
I agree with sometimes even feeling this otherized person, right? And we talk
Mm,
about that in public health topics that we don't want to have that stigma. We don't want to have that individuality when someone is, going through some sort of crisis of their own or they're dealing with some sort of adverse childhood experience. People don't want to feel otherized. And I'm glad that you brought that
mhm.
up because to me it's synonymous that yes, my LGBTQ identity is a part of who I am, but it's not all of who I am. And young people want to experience that too, right? They want to be young people. They want to have the same lived experience. They want to go out and play sports. They want to meet new people. They want to go to the mall. Like they still want to be young people. And I think it's
Yeah.
really important that we call that out as that otherization, especially like you said now earlier, right? Now there's sometimes it's feel like LGBTQ issues can be politicized, but at the end of the day, being LGBTQ isn't necessarily a political issue. Adolescence isn't a political issue. Being a kid is not political. At the end of the day, not having that monolithic view is really, really important. So I really, really appreciate you bringing that up.
Well, it's hard. Like we're human beings. We like to put things in buckets and we like
Yeah,
we like to just organize our life and compartmentalize and like categorize people. Like that's what we do. And but we have to remember, for our organization came about during the Obama administration. LGBTQ plus youth are, to your point, they're just teens like everybody else and
right.
trying to fit in, trying to navigate hormonal changes and their first crushes and their first breakups and they're, taking the SATs or, whatever they're doing to make something of themselves and to fit in. And then, you know, we have to recognize that what LGBTQ plus people go through transcends so much of what is happening out in the external environment. So much of it
Right.
is internalized and so much is layered on top of these other challenges. And I think it's really important to understand the impact of politics
Mm.
and the perspectives of our elected officials on youth. But we have to recognize that there are just things that transcend the everyday stuff that we busy ourselves with and the ongoing debate about our relevance and our importance. Being human is much more complex than just being queer alone.
Along with that, just being human also comes with the ability to try and to process the world around you and understand what your own world experience and who you want to be as you get older as a human being. And I think that comes with a lot of mental health challenges too,
Mm.
right? And I think that's one of the things that you all do so well. And I want to hear more about that. What are some of the programs that you all have developed to help provide that support for LGBTQ plus youth?
We have a youth ambassador program called Youth Voices. It is a competitive opportunity for young queer people who want to make a difference in their local community. And so we train them, we give them media training, we put them in front of journalists, brand partners, and we give them opportunities to share their story throughout all of our social media platforms. The other thing is change makers. We provide grants to young emerging queer leaders who also want to make a difference in their community, but they have a clear focus on what they want to do. And we just want to put resources in their hands to get it done. And we provide grants of up to $10,000 to make that happen. We've given out over $1.6 million since the program was created in 2020. And that's funded about
Wow.
170 projects in nearly every US
Wow.
state.
That's a lot of dollars.
It's a lot of dollars, and we're continuing to do it. And then finally is IME. We have this great online platform where young people can educate themselves on everything from stress and stigma and how to navigate that to gender and queerness.
I love this IME program that you all are running. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I went on your site and I was playing with it. And next thing I know, I found that it had been almost 10 minutes and I was clicking around and really engaging. Tell me a little bit more about IME. It's an absolutely incredible mental health tool.
Well, I'm so glad that you like it. And, the 10-minute thing is really important. And I'll tell you why in just a moment. But, IME is a web-based app. It was built in collaboration with Hope Lab and Centerlink, and it gets better. It is built largely by youth for youth, albeit with an advisory committee of academics and scientific advisors and community partners and so forth, and all of the laundry list of the folks who are involved. As you see it now online, it did take a small village. Every aspect of that platform has been vetted and validated by professionals, but it is brought to the table by young people, specifically
Wow.
the LGBTQ plus youth that we are trying to serve through this platform. It is a self-guided experience. It has been peer reviewed. And what we have found is that the longer someone stays on this platform, the more measurable the impact on positive well-being and mental health. You were there for 10 minutes. I'm glad you were there for 10 minutes, although you are not our target demographic. If we can keep young people on this platform for 10 minutes or more, that impact goes through the roof. It's important that people know that this is available. It is an upstream intervention. I want to be very clear about that. This is not where I would send a young person who is in crisis. This is where I would send a young person who is struggling, as many of us do, with understanding who they are at a time when the world seems like it's against you. And this is like when you're a teen and you're under the watchful eye of your parents or guardians and the teachers in your school, and your world seems very small, and there isn't you feel like you don't have a lot of control over your environment. This is a great tool to go and do some self-exploration. There are some activities there. There's video content. There's a lot of different things that have been curated specifically to help young people avoid a crisis, because what we hope is that by going to this platform, you will leave with a better understanding of yourself, how you fit into the world, in such a way that if you do come across obstacles, you will have some level of preparation to navigate them healthfully. So this is an effort to prevent crisis, to prevent crisis before it even becomes an issue.
What you just said right there, I think is really powerful, is the idea of the upstream intervention instead of a reactive intervention. Why is it important for us to think about the upstream prevention type of work?
What do they say? An ounce of prevention, is worth a pound of cure. I mean, when you talk about agency and you talk about control, as someone who has had a lifetime to unpack his experience, and I'm talking about the experience where I landed myself in the hospital because I attempted suicide. I've tried to distill down to what was it about that. And through years of therapy, I've essentially determined that it's control. And and when you're young, you don't feel like you have a lot of control. Like I said, you have responsibilities to your parents and guardians and educators and so forth. And it feels like you don't have any control over anything, but there is control at all ages that we can find. And there are ways that we can exert control over our environment that can be very empowering. This is why we have platforms or programs like Youth Voices and Changemakers. We are focusing on LGBTQ plus youth ages 13 to 18, helping them find ways to control their world at a time where it feels like there isn't a lot of control. And with IME, this is really one step further because it requires an awareness of your ability to control your environment, to send you to a platform like this and discovering your agency as a young person, because it exists. You get more as you get older and get out in the world, but there are so many things that we can do when we're younger to give us some sense of control over our world. And I think is the first step.
Yeah, and it's such a great first step. It's so important that young people have that sense of agency. I like that you use the word control, like you're giving them control of their own agency. And now they have a tool that can help facilitate that, that was created and informed by a young person, one of their peers, someone just like them. And I think one of my favorite things about this tool is that this is not this complicated, convoluted tool with all these bells and whistles and fireworks and holograms. Like that's not what this is. It's so simple. Yes, it's colorful and it's eye catching, but it's so simple and it's so easy to navigate. And it doesn't feel like this huge over engineered thing. And sometimes I feel it just becomes so complicated that I find that sometimes that actually turns people off from using it. I kept going through it because it was so easy to navigate.
Well, that is music to my ears because yes, it should be easy to navigate. And I hear you because like we've had so many conversations around this platform. Do we turn it into an app? Do we gamify it? I'm like, let's just hold on for 1 second because the studies that have been done about the efficacy of this app are based on its current navigation, right? Now, don't get me wrong. We are looking at ways at enhancing the platform. We are looking at ways based on user feedback on how to make it a more engaging and exciting experience. We're moving with intention because we recognize that the way youth engage with digital content it changes so radically and so
Right.
quickly. We want to make sure that we are constantly keeping tabs on where our audience is going and be there to respond. But we also recognize that there is a beauty to simplicity. And the simplicity I think is what people have a hard time understanding is that there are very
Totally
tangible,
agree.
easy things that you can do that have a meaningful impact on your life
Yeah.
and doing one activity or one journaling exercise or something can have a profound impact on a young person's life.
And simplicity also doesn't mean, oh, well, let me just click on something and read it. I think another thing I like about this tool that you all are providing is, yes, it's easy to navigate, but it also gives that power of choice, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
educational resources and finding LGBTQ centers in your area and how to actually connect human beings with other human beings, providing education that might be new information about, our own community. You're finding a way to connect
Mm-hmm.
people on an education, on a communal level, and to be able to use their stories to create this content, which goes right into your mission. And obviously is something that people want and are using because you're hearing that feedback. I agree. Social media and the way that people consume the world around them, especially right in the palm of their hand, has been changing every 5 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's really valuable that you all are not just setting it and forgetting it. You're constantly talking to young people, constantly looking at how they're using it, what they're using, what they want, how are they doing it. And one of the things that I think is really cool is you also have this module on here called youth created content, which I think is a
Mm-hmm.
fascinating approach to sort of the next step in creating a program that you don't have to build everything. Talk to me a little bit about how you are going about this youth created content.
So, being a truly youth informed organization has been a huge priority for us for a while. And we are constantly looking at ways to engage not only our youth voices that we have the opportunity of engaging with on a very intimate level while they're here based on their interests, but we also have this great alumni network, a growing alumni network of folks who are adjacent to that 13 to 18 demographic. But what we found is that we are so much better when we are engaging with our target audience around the programs that we're developing to serve them. And I think there's a lot of assumptions that adults come to the table with when they're creating programs for young people. And trust me, I don't like all the feedback. I don't like I'm an adult, I have my opinions, but I also know that I have an obligation to this audience that the older I get, the further I drift away from it, the more important they become to ensuring that this organization is constantly focused on creating meaningful impact for a very specific demographic that is always changing. And trust, kids grow up quickly, and it's like following a moth sometimes. It's like,
Right.
it's like, where are they going to go next? Like, are we on this
Yeah.
platform or whatever? And we are going to be doing more of that. Like one of the things that we've been discussing, well, are we truly as integrated as we need to be? We work with our youth voices on our programs. We solicit their feedback on board level decisions, but do we need representation on our board? Do we need an advisory group
Mm,
that is more aligned with the governance responsibilities of this organization? And the answer to that is yes.
yes, absolutely.
If you have a hard time understanding the value or impact of an organization that you're serving as a staff member, as a volunteer, all you got to do is talk to one of the recipients of the services you provide. And it's like you get
Yep.
enough joy and enough hope to like catalyze whatever comes next, you know? And I get so much out of working with young people. They're so smart.
They are so smart. They
They're
are so
so
smart.
smart, like, and they've got energy and they're
Yeah.
enthusiastic and they want to change the world.
And they want to be included. I agree.
Yeah.
As adults, we do forget that. We have the
Hmm.
privilege here of actually talking to quite a bit of young people very recently at the Champions for Youth Summit. And I sat on stage, and every single one of these individuals from across the country that I talked to that are young people said, we want to be included. We will show up if you give us the opportunity to be included, but not just, oh, yeah, pull a seat up at the table and ask me some questions, but bring me along the way, right? Help me create the content, help me distribute the content, help me talk about the content. We literally had someone on stage just like, I don't want to just post social media assets that you give me. I want you to
Hmm.
provide an opportunity that I can talk about what I'm doing and be proud to do so. It's something as so simple as creating a collaborative nature around youth voices.
You make a very, very good point because we have noticed that when young people are involved in something where they have ownership of something, they are more likely to become ambassadors. They are into it. Like when, to your point, if it's just we're going to go over here and we're going to create this program that we feel, you know, based on all of these like statistics and so forth, is going to be great for young people, and then nobody shows up because it's like they have no buy-in. Like who cares? Like there's
Right.
something about these younger generations, like they are in it to win it, and we need to tap into that because I don't know how any youth organization can survive without doing that at this point because there needs to be buy-in.
I agree. When we talk to people on here, the
Mhm.
success that they have is always stems from one of two or both things. That young people are so involved that they're practically building it from the ground up and keeping it running. And two, the partnerships. People realize that they just can't do it alone, whether that be funding or finding unique partnerships to get in front of other young people or get the word out. Change happens when people work together, when you share that common goal, which I don't know
Mhm.
many people that don't want to help young people.
I wish I could take one of our youth voices on every single like call that I have with like an external partner or a prospect or what have you, because like I would say these young people, and I'm really trying to not say kids, but like I want to because like
I
they're
have to do the
kids.
same
Like
thing.
I just had to be careful, like, but I because I don't want it to come across as like
I know exactly what you're.
diminishing their value. But like they can speak circles around me. Like some of these young people, I'm like, I joke about it with the staff, this incredible level of self-awareness and this fearlessness and this desire to go out and help the world at a time when 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 I was 16, I just wanted to get my license and get the heck
Yeah.
out of Dodge. And I was doing everything I could to just fit in and not be seen and to hide. And I am so inspired by these young people, and it's, you know, they're going to be the ones making decisions that impact me in my old age. So like we need to do everything we can to lift them up and help them be the best that they possibly can be because they're already amazing.
IME has done so much for the community, and I love that there are many different ways that people have been engaging with it and that you all had so much success with it. What has the impact been like?
Well, you know, some of the more like just numeric based, like, you know, impacts, you know, this platform has seen over 250,000 unique visitors since we launched in 2022. And right now we're
Wow.
seeing about 5 to 10,000 new visitors per month. And this is due to a lot of organic reach. We have partners out there that are referral sources and so forth. But when you talk about sort of like the more anecdotal, the more subjective value that this platform brings, there are opportunities. They are not required, you know, to take surveys and to share your experiences. And a lot of what we pull from these surveys determines things like, well, what are the kinds of topics that young people want to learn more about? There is a clear message that we are receiving from young people who are using this platform that yes, I was feeling anxious heading into this experience and I'm exiting it less anxious. We have a lot of validation from users, and particularly our youth voices who are leveraging the platform, and they're out there talking about the platform to their peers, and we're getting some very good feedback from folks who are actually on the platform for even, I say 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be 10 minutes, but like if you get what you need in 5 minutes or
Right.
less, that's all that matters. But we're getting a lot of positive feedback. And we just want to keep that going. We want to give young people what they want, what they need, and in a way that is exciting and engaging and meaningful to them.
Right. Well, I mean, apparently you're doing the right things in the way that you're facilitating that and what you're hearing from young people, because 5 to 10,000 new users a month is not a small amount. I think a lot of people listening would be very grateful for 5 to 10,000 new participants a month. Which brings me to my last question is empowerment. We have a lot of people that work across all different health topics, that work across all different industries, anywhere from educators to healthcare professionals to coalitions, public health, you name it. A lot of people that work with youth, especially when it comes to LGBTQ youth. How do we encourage people to think a little bit differently to be successful?
I think it's, and this is something that I've had to work on and something I've been more aware of in my old age. We have a hard time not talking. We have a hard time just sitting
Mm,
back and not thinking about what we're going to say next, and actively listening to the people that we're supposed to be engaging with. And when it comes to working with youth, you have to create space for them to share their perspectives in a way that they know is going to be received with love and empathy and all the things, because it's still very scary to be a young person just in general. There's lots of
right.
self-doubt, there's lots of, am I saying the right thing, do I deserve to be at the table? And so the best thing that I can do for myself is just know when to shut up, and to not take everything that you get at face value. Just sit back for a minute and just listen and read between the lines here of what they're saying, because it wasn't so much about what they said, it was how they said it, how they sourced what they were trying to say, how they described it, because to me it's shown a light on how young people are perceiving the world that we need to pay attention to. So I think it's really important to recognize that there are motivations behind what young people are giving to us at face value. They just might not be in a place where they can articulate it in a way that makes sense to an older person that might be more rigid in their understanding of the world. And so my best advice is to just learn how to like quiet yourself and don't, just listen hard, like practice those active listening skills. Do not think about what you are going to say next. You need to listen and respond to what you're receiving.
And I think that active listening could also help with representation in the multiple layers within the LGBTQ plus community, right? Sometimes I look at the media and I feel like our community is portrayed in a very specific light. And that's not always the case. Or when I look at programs that are being developed or campaigns that are being developed for our community, they sometimes feel represented with one similar recognizable note, right? It's important, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't always feel like it's a true representation of the community. How do you feel about the sort of monolithic representation of how the community is portrayed?
You know, the media has an interesting way of presenting queerness. And, we have a lot of celebrities and influencers out there that are wearing their queerness on their sleeves, and that is very good for representation. And we need more positive representation. But sometimes it becomes very performance oriented. You'll see an experience on a red carpet, and someone who has recently come out is all of a sudden showing up in like sequins and all of this fabulousness, and it's getting rewarded, and that's okay. But I also think, media does paint a very monolithic picture of what it means to be queer. And it's really important that we need to break away from that, because as much as we
Mm,
want positive, accurate representation in media, we have a long way to go. And that means we need to tell more stories that people can identify with. And I think we just need to break out. Even the queer community needs to recognize that we are not monolithic. We
right.
are not all fabulous. all the time. We are human beings, and I think honoring that in ourselves will help create a more authentic depiction of what it means to be queer across media. Don't be complicated. It doesn't have
Right.
to be super complex. Just be simple and just recognize that people are different. Everyone experiences the world in a unique way. And so
Right.
that's my advice for people who are working with young folks.
I couldn't agree more. We are more than our queerness. Queerness is not monolithic. We don't have to make things complicated. Great message to end on. So thank you so much. Brian, congratulations on your success with the IB program and over 15 plus years of success of It Gets Better. Everyone, please go check out this amazing tool. And to learn more about the organization, visit itgetsbetter.org. Brian, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you coming on here and talking to us a little bit more about how we can support queer youth and really amplify those voices in an authentic, organic way. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
A huge thank you to the Virginia Foundation for Healthy Youth and Prevention Connections for their support. And thanks to Mauricio Reyes for creating that great music score. Don't forget to share this with others because the only way we can make real change is if we do it together. And hey, if you like today's conversation, go ahead and give us that 5-star review. Now go out there, everybody, go do good. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.